Okay. All right. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And always good always good seeing everybody. And tonight we're going to be looking at Dexter Park. And I call this the baseball years because last month we looked at Dexter Park and we looked at the very, very early days of Dexter Park. And we're going to do a quick recap of it in here before we get started. So let me just okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Can everyone see their picture okay?
It's good here.
All right. All right. Good. Okay. So last month we looked at Dexter Park, the very, very early days. We went back through the glory years in Woodhaven, the racing years, and being right across the street and close to and nearby to the Union Course racetrack, there was a lot of history there that was adjacent right to the racetrack. And speaking about nearby that area, Monday night we'll be at Near's Tavern. We're giving a live presentation, and that's a nearby history. We're going to be looking at all the many historical sites right within a 10-minute walk of Near's Tavern. That this is what's the last few months we've hit a lot and been doing a lot of research on the on the Union Course racetrack, on Dexter Park, and we've uncovered a lot of stuff. There's a lot of really very interesting areas right around there, and it's probably the most historic part of town. I mean, the graveyard, the cemetery on 96th Street is probably the most historic thing in Woodhaven, right? But on the other end, you just have this overwhelming number of really interesting sites and stories over a long period of time. So we're going to be walking through that history. It's a virtual walk. Also at Near's Tavern, just wanted to let you know there is a a block party Near's will be having on Saturday, October 7th. And that's actually the day before the Woodhaven Street Fair, which is on Sunday the 8th. And it's to celebrate Near's 194th anniversary. And this year they have some people who are winning some awards. And you see the Community Service Award, Chris Flood, Advocacy Award, Karen Flood, Small Business Champion, Martin Kohlberg, History and Preservation, Edwin Gardner, Ambassador of the Year, Rob McKay, and Lifetime Ambassador Maria Thompson. Majority of these are locally from the neighborhood. Edwin Gardner, Eddie comes to this meeting a lot, and he's been involved with the Historical Society a long time, and he's been a great friend to the Historical Society and a great help when we used to go to the cemetery and work in there, and just almost any place. I mean, when we were looking for the lost 18th hole of the golf course, he came up there with his son, and we walked all through 6-foot weeds and woods and stuff looking for it. He's a great guy, and it's a well-deserved award. And then both of these folks here, Karen and Chris Flood, are being honored for their work. Great community people, always very involved in the Boy Scouts and very helpful to Near's. And Martin Kohlberg, they're doing the Goodfellas Challenge, is another great community person and friend to Near's, and he's getting honored. And then also Maria Thompson is getting the Lifetime Achievement Award, the late Maria Thompson. And she was a big advocate for Woodhaven, and it's nice to see her in a career in which she was awarded many awards. It's great to see her getting this one. So that's on Saturday, October 7th. And this is for people who want to place, they'll have a little journal so people can place ads to help mayors out. So that's what's coming up. So let's take a look at Dexter Park, the baseball years. So let's go back and just reframe it for everybody. Where was Dexter Park? So we're looking at an overhead map of Woodhaven, and just to set where you are, that's Park Lane South, up there at the top. There's Jamaica Avenue, and there's Forest Parkway, and that's Franklin K. Lane. So now you're kind of getting an idea of the area of the neighborhood we're looking at. That's Cypress Hill Cemetery up there, overlooking Woodhaven. That star down there, that's where Near's Tavern is. And of course, the racetrack would have been just to the right of that, just east of that. There it is. And this area of land right here is what was known as Dexter Park, and it's had a very interesting history and had many different purposes. And it's a nice sized piece of land nestled in right in between there, between the school and the houses on 76th Street. The school wasn't there when Dexter Park was originally there. That used to be a truant home, and then became Franklin K. Lane and was built in 1936. One of the people we talked about last month was this gentleman here, Hiram Woodruff, who as a child he attended the famous race in 1823 between Eclipse and Sir Henry. This was a race that brought 60,000 people to Woodhaven, then called at this part it was called Union Course. But as a 6-year-old, he witnessed one of the most famous events in Woodhaven history, and his family was involved in horses. His first race was at 14 years old, and he was a celebrated jockey. And then as he got a little bit older, he became a horse trainer, and he rode all of the best horses of that era. Anyone that had a horse that showed good promise brought it to him, and he lived and operated stables right there on Jamaica Avenue, along with a saloon and a hotel. And he wrote a book about horses, specifically trotting horses, that's still in publication today, and is still revered. And he's a member of the Harness Racing Hall of Fame. So a famed resident of Woodhaven who lived there. And this is what Jamaica Avenue, where Dexter Park is, this is what it looked like at the time. You could see Hiram Woodruff's stables up over there on the left. And again, this was right on Jamaica Avenue. This is a picture from 1909, and this is at a period where they were starting to. I kind of call it the transition period between the very old Woodhaven and the next stage of Woodhaven. This is a picture from 1909 as they're starting to tear down a lot of the old Woodhaven, and this was his home. This is where he lived. And these buildings right here on Jamaica Avenue, right adjacent and really at the time part of Dexter. And you can see Hiram Woodruff's Roadhouse and John Murphy's blacksmith shop. The blacksmith shop is over there at the right. That was torn down a long time ago. But that house on the left, that lasted a good. Some of you may even remember it, but it lasted for a long time. There it is in 1940.
Wow.
Did that look familiar? It's a beautiful a beautiful, beautiful old house. And there's lots of beautiful old houses like this in Woodhaven. Sometimes you look around some of these houses, you wonder how old some of these really, some of them really are. And I think there's a few out there that would really surprise us if we knew how old they were. This is Hiram Woodruff in Cypress Hills Cemetery. The day of his funeral, there was a real heavy snowstorm, and they had to bring his coffin up there by sled. People came from all over for his funeral. He was a beloved figure. Every article you read about him in the old newspapers, and I'm talking articles even like 30 years later, talk about what a nice person he was and how much he was loved. I've never come across that where someone was just so universally beloved in all the press coverage. I've never come across that until him and one other person. We'll talk about that other person later. But Hiram Woodruff was a beloved figure in Woodhaven history, and it's a shame that a lot of people don't know him. And also part of Dexter Field's history here is Dexter Park is the horse Dexter. And this was a horse that was very, very wild when it was young and was actually gelded. They didn't see a future in this horse for racing. But in 1863, Hiram Woodruff purchased him, and within a year had turned him into a champion. And I'm talking a champion that everybody had heard of. I mean, he set records, and to this day, his name lives on. There is a city in Iowa that was named after him. He was there's a whole bunch of weather vanes that take his name, and I believe Dexter Park was named after him. He also played a part in a presidential campaign when Ulysses S. Grant was running for president right after the Civil War. In a lot of states, they took Dexter, and he would ride. He didn't actually get on top of Dexter. Dexter was a trotter, so he would be in a carriage behind him, and he would ride him through the cities. Grant did, and that was to help in the presidential election. There's Grant with Dexter, and the gentleman next to him is a man named Bonner, who was the owner of Dexter at the time. This was after Hiram Woodruff's death. Hiram Woodruff bought him, turned him into a champion, and about a year and a half later, he passed away. And there's Dexter, Iowa, and you can see, look at their logo right up in the center is a horse. And I love that logo they have, the original one horse town. If we have anyone out there that lives near Iowa, please go there and see what you can find out for us. And here's the Dexter weather vanes. If you Google this Dexter weather vanes, you'll see all of these. And these all came out of the fame of Dexter that raced here. We also reviewed really a not so great part of Woodhaven's history, which was in the between 1880 and right up to the turn of the century, in which Dexter Park was used for pigeon shooting, and I mean a lot of pigeons were shot at that location there. That you can see here, they were home 2 to 5 times almost every week, all year round. And the people in the area around Dexter Park complained a lot because a lot of the pigeons that were shot weren't killed. They actually got away, and they would end up in people's yards, on their roof. And it was just really many thousands and hundreds of thousands over 30 years or so. Pigeons were killed at Dexter Park. And finally, here is when the controversy erupted in 1901, and many people said, hey, it's not a cruel sport to shoot live pigeons, and other people argued against it. and finally a bill was put up for a vote and passed, and 1902, shooting live pigeons was outlawed. But we're still cursed by those pigeons. This is the location of it now. And I was just down there the other day, and there must have been about, oh my God, there must have been about 60 pigeons just sitting in the parking lot. A lot of pigeons down that area. So let's move on now and talk about Dexter Park and baseball and a man named Max Rosner. And in that era, baseball was played a lot in flat open fields just like this. Wasn't stadiums, and people would go around and stand and watch. And that was kind of the very, very early days of baseball. And here's some early notices of baseball being played here in Woodhaven. The earliest one I found so far is 1888, but history is always evolving with the more resources we get and looking through old newspapers. It wouldn't surprise me if we find some earlier. But you see up there the Dorian baseball team, and they used to put these announcements in the paper because a lot of times they didn't know if they were going to have enough players. So they would say, people were invited to come out and play. So sometimes people just go in and go and get involved in pickup games. But this is these are early ones that I see at Dexter Park. This bottom one, the Brooklyn Elevated Baseball Club, and they're going to be playing on the new grounds in Dexter Park. So a lot of them would come there and play, even though there wasn't really a stadium there. Again, flat open fields. People would come. They put up fencing sometimes, and so people would have to come in. So this is a 1901 map of Dexter, and it gives you a good look at what else was there. Besides a field, besides the pigeon shooting and all that. What else was on Dexter Park? Because people used to have picnics there. It was a popular location. But in here, if you look, and we're looking over there at the left where it says the Truant's home over here, which is now Franklin K. Lane, and here's 76th Street and Jamaica Avenue. So now you're getting your bearings here, which is where Dexter Park is, and you can see there was a hotel, a bowling alley, a dance hall. So it was a place for entertainment and recreation. And very, very famous for it at the time, very, very popular. There's the hotel that stood on the grounds. Again, it's a 1901 map. And here's a picture. I've seen this dated at around 1908. as I've seen dates on this photograph. This is actually a scan of a large. It's actually pretty large photograph that hung in Max Rosner's office. We'll be talking about Max Rosner soon, but his family donated this to us. That's a hotel that was on the premises. So around 1909, and this is an interesting part of Woodhaven's history down there, is when things started to change. They had already finished by that time building over the Union Course racetrack, which is on the other side of Jamaica Avenue, and now some developers had their sights set on Dexter Park, and it looked very much like they were going to lose it. Here's an article in the paper talking about a certain prominent builder of East New York intimated to a group of men gathered that the old famous Dexter Park was very apt this spring to be parceled off into building lots. So, and you can see at the bottom it says, this is not surprising, as 2 family houses have been steadily going up all around it. And with 1 or 2 old homesteads and a blacksmith shop, the only remaining relics of the glorious and prosperous sporting days when the Union Course was a rendezvous for all the true horse lovers. So it looks like Dexter Park is going to be torn up. And it talks about the old days here, and this is what I love about newspapers like this, which from our vantage are 115 years old, and they're talking about the old days. Well, what's great about it is even for things that happened in 80, 90 years ago, there are people around that either have firsthand or very good secondhand knowledge of it. So you get a lot of interesting stories around this time in the papers talking about this, and talking about this was a very popular expression among among urchins, as they call them. Whoa, Dexter was a popular expression. And it says here in the vernacular of every urchin of the street. Woodhaven had that great horse racing history right there, and it's really is a shame we don't. It's not more better recognized. And there's a picture from 1909. That you see the blacksmith shop, and you see again all these parts that part of Dexter Park. And they're very much talking about the possibility it's going to get torn down. This is an interesting article. It'll come into play later on, and it just talks about many of the famous horses that were stabled at Dexter Park and trained there. And you can see some of the names there: Old Boston, Dexter, Hiram Drew, Goldsmith Maid, Highland Maid, Flora Temple. That name is very very popular. If you ever get up to Goshen, New York, there is a harness racing hall of fame, and you should visit it. And it talks about a horse there, Lady Emma, that is buried in Hiram Woodruff's old place, Dexter Park, and it says a rose bush marks the final resting spot. So we know that a horse was buried at Dexter Park, and his name was Lady Emma. Again, this will come into play later on. So now let's talk about Max Rosner, because he now enters in our picture here. He was born in Hungary, November 26th, 1876. When he was a young boy, his parents emigrated from Hungary, and he arrived here in the United States. And as a young man, he got involved in manufacturing cigars. he originally opened up a cigar shop in Brooklyn, and then wanted to start making his own cigars. So he built a plant and started selling cigars all around the city, and was making some good money. In his travels around the city, he would start hearing and seeing people playing baseball, and he was immediately attracted to the game, and went and started playing. He was a shortstop. So you got to remember, he's about 21, 22 years old. He's manufacturing cigars. He's making good money, and he's playing part-time baseball. This is a great American dream, right? That you could come here and have that kind of success as a young man. He always kept his cigar roots. Years later, he would open up a cigar shop on Jamaica Avenue near 80th Street. That was open on Jamaica Avenue for many years. So you see here the Paramounts to play St. Edward's on Sunday, and you can see the first sentence there. Max Rosner has blossomed out as a big league manager. So now he's but 26, 27 years old by this time, and now he's a manager. But it's more than just being a manager. He bought the team. he bought the team, and it was a team. They had uniforms. They had players, and they had a small fenced-in area so that they could charge admission, and that was called Paramount Park. That was in that was in Brooklyn in 1903. So this is kind of his first excursion into owning a team. And here he is with the Paramounts in 1903. Keeping in mind that he looks like an older man here, but he's still in his late 20s. Yeah, he was the owner of the owner of the team. So he sold the Paramounts in 1907. He then would next he got involved. He bought the Cypress Hills baseball club, and they originally had a different name, but he bought them, and he changed the name to Cypress Hills, and they started playing at Dexter Park. So he started playing there, a good deal before he actually built the stadium. But when he got involved here, they built a wooden grandstand. So now people could come and they could sit and watch baseball, and they would charge admission for this. And unfortunately, it really wasn't a successful venture. They did it for a couple of years, and they didn't make a lot of money. And he eventually left. He sold off the Paramounts, and they ended up disbanding. So he got involved with another team called the Ridgewoods, and when he got involved with the Ridgewoods, he leased a place in Ridgewood to play, and he changed their name to the Bushwicks. This was in 1912, and in 1912, at that point, that's when his career in baseball, semi-pro baseball, really started to take off, and the Bushwicks as well. They were playing in Ridgewood Park, and they stayed there into 1918. When it was cut up into building lots, and that's when they had to look for a new place to play, and they ended up in Dexter Park. Along the way, though, when he was at Ridgewood Park, he was arrested, and he was arrested and fined $10 because you weren't allowed to charge, you weren't allowed to have baseball games for money on Sundays. So Sundays was a popular day for people to go out, and a lot of people liked watching baseball on Sundays. So what Max did was he bought from a friend of his who had a factory that made them. He bought bars of chocolate, and you would come and pay money for a bar of chocolate, whatever the admission was for the stadium to get into a game. Again, it wasn't really a stadium; it was in a park. Whatever the admission was to get into the park, that's what you would pay for the bar of chocolate. And then he would say, "Well, thank you for buying the chocolate. You can go in for free. You can go in for free." And someone reported him to the police, and he was arrested and fined for this, and he argued against it. He fought against it, and it went before a judge, and he won his case. He won his case. He talked about how many people came, and he made his case, and I guess times were changing, and you see the way they describe him here in the second paragraph here. Max Rosner, wealthy cigar manufacturer, is the angel of the Bushwick Baseball Club. So he was a beloved, popular figure early on, and because of this, again, the rules were changed, and baseball could start selling tickets for Sunday games, and that really made a big difference for a lot of baseball teams, between not making a lot of money and suddenly becoming profitable. So in 1918, they went back to Dexter Park and played there for a few years. And in this article, right back here, you see some other names in here. One of them is Nathaniel Strong. He was acquitted in that there. And right here you see Nat Strong. His name pops up again. This is in October 1922. And by this time, Dexter Park, you got to remember, it wasn't just some rickety fences around a field. It had a hotel, it had a restaurant, had a dance hall. It had other amenities that could make money, and so they purchased the entire Dexter Park for $200,000, and it's at that point they make it known that what was there that had been started to build as a stadium, they were going to really upgrade it and actually bring a real semi-pro stadium to Woodhaven. You think about how baseball had kind of been progressing, professional Major League Baseball. A lot of these stadiums were just being built. So this was a real stadium being built here in Woodhaven, and these guys were wealthy and they had the money to do it. Here they are here. This is a picture, later on, not at the time they made the purchase, but Max Rosner on the left and Nathaniel Strong on the right. They were partners in that. You can see Max Rosner there. If you look at his left hand, you'll see the cigar in his hand. A lot of pictures or drawings of him. You see he's got the cigar. It makes sense. He made cigars. He loves cigars. So that's the two owners. One of the plans they want to do is they want to be able to get a lot of people in there. When they announced this stadium is going to be able to seat 13,000 people, people in the neighborhood were stunned because up until then, because standing out in the field or sitting on a rickety grandstand, if you got a couple hundred people, but now you're talking about bringing in thousands of people into the neighborhood. And slowly they started putting up the steel. You see steel, concrete. They make a lot of mention in here about the materials being used, because it's not something that's temporary. This is something that is intended to be permanent and last a long time. And here's a picture of of Dexter Park. I don't have a date on this picture. It's just an early picture of it, but it's a big space. So let's take a look at really kind of where the footprint of the stadium is. You've got again, we're looking back at our map, and I always like doing this because I know a lot of people who watch these, they might not have been back in the neighborhood in a while, and it helps to kind of have some landmarks. Franklin K Lane being a big one, because many of you went there. But right next to Franklin K Lane, this dotted outline that we put up here, this is kind of the footprint of the grounds of Dexter Park. So when they bought Dexter Park, this is what they bought. This land right here, these grounds and everything within, and right there is where the baseball field was. So you can see it was off Jamaica Avenue a bit, really right next to Franklin K Lane, and really nestled in between between those streets. Dexter Court, which I believe that used to be 75th Street. Nowadays 75th Street's a little bit over to the east, and that's there. But you see right there in 76th Street over on the right, all the houses right there, the back of those houses right up against it. Um, this is an aerial view of Dexter Park, 1951. New York City has a nice collection of these. They're individual photographs stitched together, and that's why you can see up there, like kind of in the left field, you can see that it's Dexter Park is actually part of 4 pictures, that are pieced together. I've tried moving them around to get it to be more smooth, but to tell you the truth, it never looks it looks fine like this. It's hard with these, but you get an idea. You can see Dexter right next to Frank and Kayleen. They were very close to one another. Let's talk about the dimensions of the ball field. It was a big ballpark. You can see down in left field, left center, it was 418 feet. In center field, 431 feet. That's no gimme. That's a shot. And it was a tall fence. It was a 30-foot fence in center field. And with a hill. You'll see the hill in a little bit. And in right field was the shortest area, and that was 325 feet. If you compare this to Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium, you can see down left field, down right of the left field line was 318, 408 to center, and 314 to right. This is the Yankee Stadium at the time. So it was a big ballpark. It had a big dimension. Now here's a nice picture of Dexter Park. This was taken in you can see the date up there on the right, August 27th, 1945. And this is a gift. Again, this was a gift presented to us from the Rosner family, and this photograph hung in the office of Max Rosner. And you can see right up there, compliments to Max Rosner from the Police Athletic League, 102nd Precinct, August 27th, 1945. And there they are in Dexter Park. And this is not a semi-pro game. These are kids playing. It's the Police Athletic League. We're going to take a little close-up look at some of this, and you can see the left field scoreboard, Bushwick Baseball Club, and right beyond it, you see Cypress Hill Cemetery. Over on the left, you can see the stands like bleacher seats, and then advertisements, Seagrams and Gem Blades. Center field, you can see it looks like I don't know what that is, to be honest with you. I'm guessing they're flowers. It says Dexter Park. It's spelled out. But if you notice, it's on a hill. It's on a hill that goes up. And then above that is the fence, and then you have advertisements up there. Columbia Savings Bank over there on the right. So to hit the ball over center field, you can see you have to not only hit it far, but now it's elevated. Any outfielder going up to that fence has to go up the hill. There's a few ballparks that have had that over the years, and if I'm not mistaken, someone out there follows modern baseball more than I do. I think I think the stadium in Houston has a hill like this. I know there's one in Major League Baseball now. Another close-up from the photo. This is just a little moment in some kids' lives. Not a just one pitch, one split second out of their lives captured on film. These kids playing out there. You can see the young man throwing, and over there on the left, you can see the ball, on its way to the plate. And then an adult behind the pitcher's mound, I guess, acting as the umpire. And a kid getting ready to hit the ball, and you've got kids out there with their gloves, waiting for it. It's a nice summer picture. Nice to see some kids playing at Dexter Park. Just a really nice nice photograph. So now going back, that picture was the 40s. Now we're back in the opening days of the stadium. The Bushwick Club opens at Dexter Park April 15th, 1923. So 100 years ago this year, they opened up. And it says here the first few Sundays only single games we played, but then after that, the rest of the season, Sundays are double headers. That's why Sundays were very popular. You'd go and you'd watch a double header. And I know my dad used to tell me when he was young, he lived in Cypress Hills. He would him and his friends, they would go on Sundays, they would go to Dexter Park. He said it was 2 games. And he told me about all the different players that they used to go and see. It was a big thing. There's people lining up. You can see the tickets for the grandstand, 55 cents, and the bleachers, 35 cents. Back there on the left, you see Franklin K. Lane. And up here, up on the top right, it gives you a good look at the stadium right there, right? You can see it. You can see the stanchions there, and it's a substantive structure, and looks like a speaker right there. It's a very nice detailed picture. It gives you a good look at people lining up to waiting to get in, to buy tickets to get in. And you can see 2 games every, it says to the right of that, it's going to say Sunday, but baseball, 2 games every Sunday. And there's a ticket for the for a game at Dexter for the Bushwicks. And I like that. You got your Max Rosner signature. You see, Rosner was famous, and this we'll see this picture later on too. He was just famous for being involved in every facet of the operation, and they say he was every day. He was the first one. He was the first one at the ballpark every day, even beating his groundskeepers. He just loved the sport. He loved being a baseball owner. He loved being at the ballpark, and it's a great cartoon of him there. He's got the key in his hand. He's you see the sun rising in the background. You got a mouse over there saying "so early in the morning." It's just a great picture there. And he was beloved in Woodhaven. They loved him. That's what I was talking before about Hiram Woodruff, how everyone loved him. The same with Max Rosner. Everyone just absolutely loved this guy. And here in Woodhaven, he was often referred to in the press as Uncle Max. You can see here when this article Play Ball here, and it says Uncle Max Rosner. And then later on, this was really Uncle Max keeps Mo on auto racing report. That was what they called him in the paper, Uncle Max, and he was he was a beloved, well regarded figure in the neighborhood. Here's a nice picture from the 1940s tax series of Dexter Park. The the restaurant there is now a bar. And that again, a bar near a baseball stadium was going to do some good business. If you're familiar with the 1940s tax website, if you go there now, you can click a button and it does this colorization for you, and it does a pretty good job. It does a pretty good job. You're allowed 2 colorizations a day for free. If you want more than that in a day, then you got to pay. But you can get two every day for free.
Wow.
All right, so let's move on and look at the Bushwicks themselves, the team. And I've got some cassettes around from when they put up the sign the historical marker for Dexter Park about 20 years ago, I guess. And I've the Historical Society recorded some interviews with a lot of men who played there, and someday I got to get those tapes out and digitize those and put them up online so we can actually hear stories from many of the players who played here. But here you see the Bushwicks. You can see Max Rosner there in the center. This is a nice picture in that if you look at it, you can see there's a lot of autographs. Some of them are very hard to read, but I guess if you had a list of player names, you might be able to match some of them up. And here's Max with the Bushwicks. I don't know the name of any of these players. This was from Max Rosner's collection. Again, this one actually was in a frame, so it hung in his office. I have to admit, sometimes I get awed by something like that where I'm holding a frame and I realize, he might have put this picture in this frame. This was his picture frame, but it's a really nice picture where you get a good look at the Bushwicks uniforms. I really wish this was in color. But looking at it, these were pretty uniforms, and you can see this a hat with the stripes and the B, the letter B in the center there. And again, their hats, pretty much retain that style. You can see the stripes, the letter B. And again, the Bushwicks uniform, the stripes. And you can see in the grandstands behind there, you can see all the men back there, and look at all the hats. Look at all the hats. There's one lady there I see, and she's got a hat as well. But a lot of men wore hats in those days. I like that style. And again, there's Max Rosner in the center. There's another young one there. So there's Max Rosner right in the center. And again, another picture of the Bushwicks. And you can see out in the outfield, you can see the houses behind there. One of the things they talked about Max Rosner is that some owners might be inclined to put up a big fence to block the view of houses that, especially since a lot of those houses, they said people would go out into the roof and set up little bleacher areas for themselves, and they could go up on the roof and sit and watch ball games for free. But he never minded that. You got to remember, he for a while he had a house on 76th Street. Those were his neighbors. Those were his neighbors, and his son Herman had a house there on 76th Street, and again it was real close. Later on, Max, as he prospered more, he moved to Kew Gardens as he got older. But this was his neighborhood, so he kept no fence down there, and you can see the houses back there. Let's talk about some of the opponents, because this was how they brought people in. I mean, the Bushwicks were a good team, and he signed a lot of good ball players over the years. But they would bring in teams to play the Bushwicks, and a lot of times they were bringing in some very famous players who it might have been after the baseball season, and they were picking up a few extra bucks. They would put that together a traveling team, and they would go around and play, in different stadiums where people hadn't had a chance to see them before. And one of the famous players of early baseball that came here to Woodhaven to play was this guy here, Honest Wagner. And you might have heard about this in his baseball card there, because this very, very if you have this card, you're set for life. But he's a famous player that that came here to Woodhaven. And Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig of the New York Yankees. Again, you can see the subheadline there: famous Yankees lead barnstormers against Bushwicks in single game today. And over at the right, you've got an ad for the Columbus Day game: Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig's team versus the Bushwicks. All seats 50 cents. For people around here, getting to the Bronx would be a hike. For a lot of young kids, this was an amazing opportunity to not even have to leave the neighborhood and go and see players like Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. It's really hard to fathom how that must have been, and what a great experience. And here's a picture from within Dexter Park, and making a real great rodeo entrance there on this car. You've got Babe Ruth, and next to him Lou Gehrig. Putting on a real show for the crowd. And you look in the stands behind him; it's just packed. It's just packed. What a thrill it must have been to be there that day for those people. That's an exciting day, and I bet it's one that many of them talked about for many days in their life. Unless seeing these guys was so commonplace, because they did come here every year for like 8 years. They did come here at least once a year. Here's Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig with Max Rosner and his grandson. You get a little close up on that.
He looks so small.
Yeah, well, he was a shortstop. Here's another player that came to Dexter Park. That's Stan Musial, Stan the Man. He was again, this was right after the World Series was over. You can see World Series heroes featured in Twin Bill. So, they were leading a team of all-stars against the Bushwicks in a doubleheader at Dexter Park. So, a lot of these ball players, after the season was over, they saw an opportunity to make some more money. And not only for them, but for all the other players and owners, and they would go around. You can see at the right, Stan Musial. He's in the Baseball Hall of Fame up in Cooperstown, New York. That's his plaque there. But he came here and played in Woodhaven. Yeah, one of the greatest ball players ever. Give me 1 second. There we go. All right. Here's a really nice picture from the Rosner collection of Max Rosner on the right, and Nat Strong, the other man in the suit, along with Paul Dean and his brother Jay Dean, or better known as Dizzy and Daffy Dean. I'm going to be honest with you. I had to look at their pictures to see which one. I know it on the photograph in the back. It says, Dizzy and Daffy Dean. I think I got them right. They were brothers, and they look very much alike. Very, very interesting stories about both of them. Dizzy Dean ended up being a Hall of Famer, and Daffy Dean again showed great promise, but injuries curtailed his career. Dizzy Dean's career was somewhat cut short too, due to injuries, but he won 150 games. He ended up in the Hall of Fame. Famous story about about when they came up. The Cardinals were playing a doubleheader, and Dizzy Dean pitched the first game, and he it was a 3-hitter. So the other team only got 3 hits, and then Daffy Dean, his brother, pitched the second game and threw a no-hitter. This is as a rookie. He threw a no-hitter. And when the reporters came to his older brother after the game and said, what do you think about Daffy throwing a no-hitter? He said, well, if I knew he was going to do that, I'd have done it in the first game as well. There's Dizzy Dean's plaque in the in the Hall of Fame. A lot of times players they weren't barnstorming. They came for other reasons. And here was a player a lot of people would have heard of. Lefty Gomez was a pitcher for the Yankees for many years. And what happened was later in his career, in the early 40s, he had some injuries, and he wasn't really pitching very effective, and he was released and out of a job, but he didn't want to give up on baseball, so he came and he pitched at Dexter Park a couple times as he tried to get back into baseball, and he did make it back to the major leagues for the rest of the one season, 43, and then that was it. His career was over. But again, someone at the end of his career came to play. Here's someone who came to Dexter Park at the beginning of his career. In fact, it was so much at the beginning that they got his name wrong in the headline. Phil Rizzuto plays great ball, and that being Phil Rizzuto. And you see there, like, Phil Rizzuto, the sensational shortstop of the Kansas City Blues, thrilled 7,000 fans at Dexter Park yesterday afternoon when he led the minor league All-Stars to a double win over the Bushwicks. So Phil Rizzuto, a famous Yankee shortstop, who won a lot of World Series rings with the Yankees. There's his baseball card. There's his plaque in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And many of you also might remember him from the Money Store commercials. Remember those? He was also the Yankees announcer for many, many years. But he played here very early in his career, before he was in the majors. He played here at Dexter Park. Whitey Ford, again, not someone that may have come around after the season, but he came up to the major leagues with the Yankees and won his first 9 decisions. Got some votes in the MVP award that year, despite being just a rookie, and won the Rookie of the Year award. So he came out and had a terrific first couple of seasons in Major League Baseball, and then he ended up in the military during the Korean War. He was in the Army. And when he got out of the Army, he was there for 2 years. When he got out, he came out kind of mid-season, and he played a few games. And here they wanted to keep him close in Dexter Park. He pitched a few games again as a tune-up, as a warm-up, so he'd be ready to go back into the major leagues. That was Whitey Ford came here. So you had players playing here for different reasons, and you also had some really interesting teams here. And this is one. And I saw on YouTube. Maybe at the end of this we can look at it. It's brief, but they've made a documentary about this baseball team, and it's going to be on. I believe it's going to be on Amazon if you have Amazon. But it's the House of David, and they were kind of like a religious order. And this team went around and played, and you can see they were famous for their long hair, their beards. But they were also famous for putting on an entertaining show. You can see actually in this picture right here, if you look over here on the left, I don't know, some guy's dressed up like a clown or something. And they also used to do very entertaining pepper games. If you go to baseball stadiums, if you watch baseball, you might see a sign sometimes behind home plate or on the wall someplace say no pepper games. Ball players used to play pepper where it was very close to each other, and they would hit the ball down on the ground, they would catch it. These guys also used to do tricks, kind of like I don't want to say like the Harlem Globetrotters, but how the Harlem Globetrotters played baseball and they did tricks. These guys would do the pepper game and they would do tricks like that, and they were very entertaining. In that coming attraction with the documentary, there's a bit of that. They used to come and play here at Dexter Park. Very, very popular. Another thing that another thing that Max Rosner really encouraged was he brought in all the teams from the Negro Leagues to come here and play. They were here all the time. This is at a time when you could not play Major League Baseball because of the color of your skin, and they were bringing in teams from the Negro Leagues to play here in Woodhaven against the Bushwicks. So this is one of the teams that played here for many years. Not just like a couple of years, but like coming to Dexter Park for like 30, 40 years. They were traveling teams. A lot of them had their own stadiums too, but they would go out on the road. And this was the Brooklyn Royal Giants. Another team which made a lot of appearances at Dexter Park with a Homestead Grays. And this man here, you see pictured here, is Josh Gibson. And Josh Gibson is considered one of the greatest ball players of all time. When he burst onto the scene, he was a catcher, and due to his power and the long home runs that he would hit, he started becoming known in the press as the Black Babe Ruth. And here in Woodhaven, in one of the articles here, it says that they had seen him so many times here, and they had seen Babe Ruth, that they began calling Ruth the white Josh Gibson. I mean, this man could really really hit, and was a tremendous athlete. They say he hit nearly 800 home runs and had a career batting average of 359. I mean, these are tremendous numbers. And that center field wall we were looking at before, remember the hill that goes up and then the elevated fence above it? That's 30 foot over the ground in center field, which is a deep, remember, 431 feet. He's the only player to hit a home run over the center field wall. Only player. Josh Gibson. He's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And a couple of years ago, Major League Baseball announced that they'll recognize the Negro League records. And you can see there, it gives him the second highest single season Major League batting average at 466. I mean, it's just a tremendous athlete, Hall of Famer, playing here in Woodhaven. Here's the a headline which I find really interesting, because you don't see it a lot. They usually call the team the Bushwicks. That's their name, the Bushwicks. But every once in a while, another nickname slips out for them. That's the Dexters. So I think that's kind of interesting. I had not heard that name before until I started seeing it in the paper quite a bit. And this is an article about them playing again from the Negro League, the New York Black Yankees. Here's here they are. And again, a lot of players that played in the Negro Leagues, had they been given an opportunity, would have been major league ball players, and they would have a lot of them would have been great stars, but never had the opportunity. But this was their opportunity to do what they love, play baseball. Another team from the Negro Leagues that came to Dexter Park a lot, the Elite Giants. You notice that they've got names that are kind of takeoffs on the major league teams. These are the Elite Giants. These are the Homestead Grays I was telling you about before with Josh Gibson. There's the Elite Giants.
Ed, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Did these teams like the Black Yankees and the Elite Giants have to get, I mean, I came late, so I don't know, but did they have to get some sort of a license from the major league teams to use those names?
I really don't know. Sorry, I really don't know. Here are the Philadelphia All-Stars. So teams came from all over, again, when they traveled, and it wasn't that Dexter Park was the only place that they could play. There were other places that they could go and play, but they would make the circuit, and because there were limited places, Dexter Park was always one of the stops. And you had the Cincinnati Clowns. The Newark Eagles. Now the Newark Eagles were interesting because they had a home base, and so a lot of teams went to them. In fact, the Bushwicks went to the Newark Eagles on a number of occasions. They would come to Dexter, but again, they had a good facility, and the Bushwicks went there and played there. As an early shot of the Brooklyn Royal Giants. Here's here's one of the Cuban the Cuban stars who came to Dexter Park a number of times, and that's Louis Tiant Sr. And if that name is familiar to some of you who are baseball fans, his son Louis Tiant was a pitcher, famous for pitching with the Boston Red Sox, and also later on with the New York Yankees. And he had a really interesting delivery, Louis Tiant, the son, where he would kind of turn his body around before throwing the pitch. It was something you would see imitated a lot by kids playing wiffle ball, because it was an interesting term. But that's his father on the right, who came from Cuba and played ball and played at Dexter. There's Louis Tiant when he was with the Yankees. He used to do a TV commercial for the Yankee Franks. I don't know if you remember it. That was his catchphrase. It's great to be with a wiener. Louis Tiant. So at this time, you're seeing more conversation in the press of here how the big leagues are ignoring colored aces. They're saying how there's a lot of ball players that should be playing Major League Baseball, and you see up here in the headline next to the pictures, they would be stars in the major league. There's Josh Gibson and Fats Jenkins. But while they're talking about tearing down the color barrier, residents of Woodhaven were already seeing the great players of the Negro Leagues face off against the Bushwicks. and one of the greatest and more famous pitchers of the Negro League, Satchel Paige, came here to Dexter Park. If you're a baseball fan, when you start reading about all the great players that came here in the neighborhood to play, that you wouldn't even have to take public transportation, just walk down and you could walk in and see some of these great players. It's again, I often say that it's a shame we're not more well known for our horse racing history. It's a shame we're not more well known for our baseball history as well. We kind of forgot that whole area, anything that happened down there, we really haven't paid as much tribute to as we really should. Here's Satchel Paige, again, a member of the Hall of Fame. Didn't make it to the major leagues till he was 42 years old, at an age where most players are hanging up their cleats. He came in and was was pitching at an old age. Here's another team, the Kansas City Monarchs, who came to Dexter, and what's notable about when they came to Dexter is this player right here, and that's Jack Roosevelt Robinson, or Jackie Robinson. Came to play here. This was in August of 1945, and there's the box score where you could see Robinson in there playing shortstop. They went 2 for 5. It was just the one game, as far as I can tell. It's just the one game that he played here, but he did come here and play. This was a few years before he would break the color barrier, and come up and play for the Brooklyn Dodgers, and have a very memorable career, and a beloved player. And there he is with the Kansas City Monarchs, and there he is with the Brooklyn Dodgers, and his transition to the major leagues was he put up with a lot of abuse, and he paved the way, and and changed baseball history, and he is in the baseball Hall of Fame. He is buried in Cypress Hills Cemetery. And there's his grave there. You can see at the bottom down there, it says 27 Jackie Robinson. There's a really nice map. I don't have it in this presentation. I had it in the other one, where a Cypress Hill Cemetery, where they have all the notable graves, and it's on a map. And we came around a corner, and this one was there. We were, it was very easy to find. You can see it's very well visited, and people leave different kinds of mementos at his grave, baseball related mementos. There's his tombstone. A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. Jackie Robinson, and you can see all the stuff that people leave for him. All right, so let's move on and talk about night baseball. This is again another really interesting part of Woodhaven's baseball history, and that's when Dexter Park put up lights. Right down there on the bottom, I had it on this page too. This is an advertisement for the very first night baseball game at Dexter Park, and they had tried night baseball out in different stadiums. Dexter Park wasn't the first place that they had night baseball. They had night baseball in other places, but it didn't work. It was they did it like once or twice. I mean, it wasn't regular. It was just kind of ad hoc. Dexter Park was the first permanent, lights, it really changed things for baseball, for semi-pro baseball, but really for all of baseball. But this was 1930 in Woodhaven, and it was 5 years before anyone in the major leagues would have lights. And a lot of the other stadiums, they would follow what worked at Dexter Park. And the man who did this was Max Rosner's son, Herman. Herman was a lawyer and an electrician, and he had a really difficult task here to do. This is not Dexter Park, by the way. This is just a baseball stadium, but he had a very, very difficult task. He had to put up lights that would light up the field, and at the same time, it had to be uniform lighting, and he had to light up the field. He had to light up the sky, and he had to do it in a way in which he wasn't blinding any of the players or any of the fans. And when you think about that, it was very difficult. And when they did it at Dexter Park, one of the advantages they had was they had a stadium so they could experiment with it. And when I had the real privilege of speaking to a gentleman named Bennett Rosner, and he talked about his father Herman, and how when they put up the lights, they would go out there and test them, and he found that if the light the sky wasn't uniformly lit, it made the baseball appear like it was going at a different speed, sometimes faster. They had to make sure the whole, like I said, it was uniform, because you don't want a ball going up to the sky and all of a sudden it's you could see it and then it goes dark and you don't see it. It's got to be lit the whole way. So they, as an electrician, he was able to get these lights up there, and they were able to experiment with all the positioning until they got it right, and were able to have night games starting in 1930. And it opened to rave reviews. There are a number of good articles about Herman, in which they talk about the lighting. You see here, Dexter Park lighting plant called finest in the country. Night ball equipment rated most modern, designed by owner's son. And here's what Herman Rosner is talking about. Uniformity is important, young Rosner pointed out, because the velocity of a ball seems to change, although it doesn't, when it travels through areas brighter or dimmer. Thus, fielders can't judge properly. They think it's coming faster than it is. The most important line on the diamond, of course, is that from the pitcher's mound to the plate, he said. So that's the part you got to really make sure is lit, because, you've got someone throwing a baseball at someone up there with a bat, and also when the ball is hit, everyone on the field needs to be able to see it. So very, very difficult job. You just take it for granted when you go to a stadium and you see it all lit up. And what he did there is what others copied and then eventually built on. And obviously over time, as people learn more, we improve it. But it was a tremendous achievement that Herman Rosner did. And he was a resident here of Woodhaven, and this immediately started bringing out larger crowds in the evenings. Because think about what people were doing in 1930. You had the radio. If you were lucky, you had a radio. So to have this kind of entertainment at night, was great. And at first it was seen as a fad, but no, in later years it would become more and more. And now the majority of the baseball games are played at night, right? It's day baseball games have become the exception, not the rule. Here you have some discussion about about what's going to happen. And this is during the war years, because there was a lot of concern that ships that were, enemy ships that were off the shore of the United States might be able to see at night where a stadium is and target it, and target it. Eventually, Roosevelt made the decision that they would keep they would keep the games playing, night games playing, because they felt people needed the entertainment, and they didn't feel the risk was a big one. And there you get a good look at at Dexter with the light stanchions back there, and of course they had other ones out here in the outfield. So now we're going to take a look just at Dexter Park through the years. Some interesting stuff here. Again, Max Rosner was very well known for being generous. Again, a beloved figure, and there was a reason why. And this is where he has announces a series of benefit games, because they're raising money for a new building for Jamaica Hospital. This was the celebration, Woodhaven's celebration of its 100th birthday in 1935. Woodhaven was founded July 1st, 1935. That was really a real fun piece of research, and when you find something like that, I mean, we knew we had a date, but a year, but we didn't know we had a date, and finding that's a whole topic for another thing. But finding that was really exciting, and here it is. They're celebrating Woodhaven's anniversary, not in July. I have July down there, but that's incorrect. But it's in October that they celebrated. And here's where Woodhaven is being congratulated by Dexter Park on its centennial. And a funny thing happened today when I put this slide in. I used to have this on another slide which was smaller, but when I blew it up, I was looking at it and I was like, I never really looked too close at the drawing down there, because it's just it's not a great copy. This is, and when I looked at it a little bit closer, I've got a lot of questions about it. I'm thinking that I'm looking at this and thinking that this is Jamaica Avenue down here. This looks like how the entrance is, but there's no stadium here yet. In fact, there's no stadium anywhere in this picture. I mean, this looks like the houses, and I'm guessing these are the house over here. But then there's this big building here. To tell you the truth, this picture today, when I looked at it, it's just left me scratching my head, and I'm going to need to do a little bit of thinking on this, and maybe someone out there will see it and have some ideas. Well, but there's some pretty large sized buildings here, and I don't know where this all fits in. But this was the picture that they used, Dexter Park baseball grounds. And again, I don't know if this is supposed to be a drawing of what it looked like, 40, 50 years before this. Again, this was a picture that again, it's the only time I've seen this drawing, and it's congratulating Woodhaven on its centennial. You know what I mean? So it could be intentionally using a picture of what the old Dexter Park baseball grounds used to look like, and if so, then this is really a very interesting drawing. We gotta think on this one a little bit more.
Is it maybe up there in the back where it's all kind of leveled?
Yeah, they used to play on an empty field, so
yeah,
I'm wondering
there.
Yeah, I'm wondering if in here, you've got your picnic grounds that they talk about. You've got maybe the open field where you play baseball. Maybe there were other buildings on this lot, because you got to remember, if a baseball field is going to be here, these might be other buildings that were there. This might be from the time when they were hunting pigeons. This might be the hunting pigeon ground. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities. It's very, very interesting. When you look down here, this kind of looks like what we see as the hotel and this, along Jamaica Avenue here, the rest of the Woodhaven. It kind of makes sense that we're looking, north. Again, I just think because it's in a centennial ad, I think it's an old drawing. And if so, it's really interesting. Here's 1936 when they're laying the cornerstone for Franklin K. Lane, and you can see, which means we were still a ways away from it. But Franklin K. Lane will be 100 years old next decade. And a nice picture up here when they laid the cornerstone, they put in a time capsule, and you can see. They talk about what goes in the time capsule: an American flag, a Bible, 2 copies of the Leader Observer, including the Woodhaven Centennial edition, a copy of the New York Times, volumes of the specifications of the school, and a baseball autographed by Max Rosner, president of the baseball club. You can see Max Rosner here. If you look at his hand, now you can see he's holding a baseball. A baseball there. So that box down there was put into the cornerstone as a time capsule of Franklin K. Lane, and it's still sitting there to this day. And there you can see, the baseball stadium and Franklin K. Lane right next to each other. Max Rosner, he was responsible for the elevated J train, the steps that go up. He gave a permanent easement so that the stairway could be built there for the pupils of the school. This one's for Ron. Ron brought this up. This is an interesting article. 1941, at that point, the Brooklyn Dodgers were looking for a new home. They were looking for something bigger, and this article here is about the president of the Brooklyn Dodgers coming to Dexter Park, unannounced, paid for a box seat, and was sitting watching the game. And someone alerted Max Rosner that he was there, so they went down and sat with him, and that set all the tongues wagging. And there are a number of articles which they specifically say they believe that the Brooklyn Dodgers are looking at the Dexter Park location as a place for them to move to, possibly having to tear down the stadium and build a new one, but to buy that that land. And Rosner says, I'm always willing to listen to propositions, but there's one thing certain: I can't see any proposition that would take me out of baseball. I think that the way the population of the city is drifting, Dexter Park is a more central location than Ebbets Field right now. So people flirted with the idea, and maybe the Dodgers, if they had moved, we could have been talking about the Woodhaven Dodgers these days. And that's an interesting piece there. This picture again was a donation from the Rosner family, and on the back of it was written the names of Max Rosner and the gentleman to the right, Jimmy Powers. And that led me in a search about this gentleman here, and he was a sports editor for the New York Daily News and a sports writer, and he had this column here, The Powerhouse by Jimmy Powers. And I tell you, he wrote a lot about the Bushwicks and Dexter Park and Max Rosner. You can see down there, good old Max Rosner promises Bushwick fans another top ball club. Max Rosner of the Bushwicks just celebrated his 50th wedding anniversary. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Yeah, he had these articles. These articles, a lot of them were just like little tidbits, like just little pieces of news. I don't want to say it's like a gossip column, but in some ways, some of them did come across that way a bit. It was interesting, and he was very well known. You can see there's a Daily News truck advertising Jimmy Powers, and then as baseball and television started coming up, here's the Golden Gloves, and Jimmy Powers is going to be announcing the Golden Gloves on WPIX. So he was a well-known sports writer and a powerful columnist, and he wrote about Rosner and Dexter Park a lot. Max Rosner did not raise prices at Dexter Park, the lone local owner to hold the line against gouging the faithful public. Here's a long article about Max Rosner. There's that photograph from before, that drawing of Max Rosner getting to the park early. And here's the second. The first two paragraphs are interesting. Out in Woodhaven, I love this. Out in Woodhaven, where sane people live sane lives, in contrast to the merry-go-round existed of the Broadway boob-strap crowd, they rate Max Rosner something of a hero. This chubby, red-faced little man is a big person to his neighbors because he gives them, right in their home district, a big ball club at small prices. And it says here, 250,000 fans annually come to games there. I've seen other estimates in his later articles of 300,000. There's another good reason for the friendly feeling of Max's neighbors for him. His right field fence fronts along the yards of homes on a street that runs at right angles to Jamaica Avenue. Hard-hearted big league magnates in a similar spot have erected towering fences to block the view of people from their homes. But Max kept his fence low enough for them to erect balcony seats from which non-paying customers have watched for years. Looking out from the Dexter Park grandstand, you can see them along the fence. And they talk about the changes down there that he's made, new bleachers and other structural changes. 13,300. And it says Max's ball games get the big league coverage they're entitled to. At each game, 2 telegraph wires click out the account for early editions of the morning papers. And at a time like this, when the Cardinals, a league-leading team, is accompanied by only one writer on an Eastern trip, it is phenomenal to realize that 6 to 10 newspapermen cover each doubleheader of the Bushwicks. Bill Granger, sports editor of the Brooklyn Citizen, hasn't missed a Bushwick doubleheader in 25 years, except for one spell when he was quite sick. And that goes for Max, too, who's only had one occasional layoff for illness. But Max has one complaint, and it's the complaint of a true owner. Defeats don't bother him. He knows the law of averages catches up with any team, but he can't excuse sloppy baseball. And there's the little cartoon that goes with it. Max can't excuse sloppy baseball. And it ends up calling him Max Rosner, the good neighbor of Woodhaven. Here's a big thank you to Rosner for helping the Red Cross raise money at Dexter Park for the war fund. So Lou Gehrig, who had come to Dexter Park many times, passed away in June of 1941. And a year later, June of 1942, the Bushwicks held Lou Gehrig Day at Dexter Park, and they used the proceeds from this game to help raise money across the city to buy 10 ambulances. So it was part of a memorial fund committee. I mean, they didn't do it all at Dexter Park, but they contributed a lot to it by having Lou Gehrig Day. Max Rosner is honored by the fans. He's at 7 years old at this point now. And again, I remember we started following him as a young man in his 20s, and now he's in his 70s, and he's been involved with baseball for 45 years, and they have a night in his honor. At this point, television is becoming more involved in sports, and here the Bushwicks are going to be televised. You know, it's it's a shame they didn't realize that this was going to be one of the things that really hurt Dexter Park, is televised Major League Baseball. Over the years, again, it was we're doing the baseball years, but Dexter Park hosted boxing, soccer, football, actual polo. They had polo with horses here in Woodhaven at Dexter Park, and of course later years stock car racing, which most of us know about it. I mean, what a great source of entertainment right here in our community. And you know, when you hear people talk about Dexter Park and how they talk about it with such love, you see now why. Because there was always something good going on there. This is from 1935. This is a great example. Polo on horseback one night, and then heavyweight champion Jack Dempsey throwing out the first pitch of a game the other night. I mean, there was always something going on at Dexter Park, and Max Rosner had a way of just bringing exciting things happening to the stadium. Well, we had this already when he gets honored. Sorry. Here's April 1949. We're going to get treated to another really good picture here. Opening day at Dexter Park. And fans are treated to music from the St. Thomas the Apostle Band. There will be traditional pregame ceremonies with the band from St. Thomas the Apostle Church on hand to provide music fitting for the occasion. So here it is, opening day 1949. A few changes in the stadium, but otherwise looking really good. You can see they have some ceremonies there. There's the St. Thomas Band coming in, playing from center field. I hope someone out there will see this and maybe they know a relative that is still with us who was there that day and can tell us about it. I know it's a long shot, but you never know. You hope. It looks like they're marching in. A look at the left field. You can see over there on the left, the scoreboard behind that. You can see the tombstones, and then on the on the right, all the different ads: Gem Razor, Florsheim Shoes, Gallagher and Burton's whiskey, and you see those homes back there. I'll put a little spotlight on those homes. I can't say for sure, but I believe these are the homes that are up on that's up on Park Lane South up there. Looking down on the on the stadium. This is from Park Lane South. You can see Frank and Kay Lane there on the right behind that tree. And if you were back there behind that house, that would be, I believe that would be your view over there, looking down on the stadium. This is the other, looking out at the other side. Again, they're Park Lane South, and behind that, Forest Park. Here we go again. I'll repeat. Sorry. This is again being televised. So it's just funny how things happen. The law of unintended consequences. The Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier and playing Major League Baseball opened the doors. And in the next couple of years, more and more African American players started playing in the major leagues. But a lot of these were the stars from the Negro Leagues that were going to play Major League Baseball, and it it really began the decline of the Negro Leagues, where they were becoming obsolete, and without them coming into playing in Dexter Park, the Bushwicks future was going to be pretty uncertain. At the same time, when they were televising baseball games and people were getting more televisions in their homes, the need to go out to night baseball, even though it was locally, became less. So to try and keep things going, keep the stadium going, Dexter Park took a different approach. And you can see here, Uncle Max keeps mum on auto racing report. There were a lot of rumors going around that they were going to be doing auto racing at Dexter Park, and he wouldn't comment on it. But pretty soon he's sitting in a race car. You can't really see him there, but he's in the race car there, saying, after 50 years of operating a semi-pro baseball, Max Rosner, 74-year-old owner of Dexter Park, insists that driving racing cars should be easy. So they convert Dexter Park, and you can see here they have new stock car speed records set at Dexter Park. I tell you, I don't have it here, but there is a couple of articles from that time from people who lived in the area, complaining, about the noise coming from the racetrack, the engines revving and all of that. But otherwise, this kind of breathed a little bit new life into Dexter Park for a couple of years, and it did really well. As the announcement, Woodhaven to have stock car speedway, and then here's a really nice picture of, you can get an idea of it. They put a fence up, and you've got Franklin K. Lane over there, and there's your race cars. And there's your track. There's your houses along 76th Street. And again, with the lights, they could have these races at nights, which they did. So there's a program about stock car racing in Dexter Park with advertisements. And again, it was very popular for a couple of years, but even then, it proved to be more of a fad than anything, and crowds started to dwindle even at the coming out for the stock car races. It was in September '51 in which they pretty much gave it up on the Bushwicks. You can see this is kind of harsh here, the way the sentence is. The Bushwicks have been a flop for the past 4 years. TV and big league night baseball, which was introduced to this area by the Dexter Park folks, are some of the causes for the dropping of baseball at the famed Woodhaven Park. Stock car racing has helped pick up the slack in fan attendance. This is right when it started. But again, after a couple of years, it wasn't doing as well. There's a nice picture here of the racetrack. You see Frank and K. Lane there in the background. And then 1953, Max Rosner dies. He died one day after his birthday. He was born on November 26th, 1876, and he died November 27th, one day after his birthday in 1953. Died in the hospital. And at this point, with the racetrack, the stock car racing starting to fade, the park ended up closing. And you see here, Dexter Park, once renowned as the home of baseball, under the leadership of the late dearly beloved Max Rosner, has come in for a share of hometown rumors after and before the running of stock car races at the ballpark. And this is when the reporter tracked down like an old bloodhound all the talk circulating about it, and then eventually found out that the park was going to be torn down, demolished, and new homes were going to be built on the land. And this is after the ballpark has been torn down, and you can see the homes being built there. And that's why if you go down to that area where the baseball field was, those homes down there are a completely different style, like than to the rest of the neighborhood around it in Woodhaven. It's got its own identity down there in where Dexter Park was. And here we have an article from 1963, only a few years after Dexter Park was torn down, saying if we could only have one now, really lamenting the loss of Dexter Park and realizing, everything that they really had, and which we lost. And again, there's that drawing of Dexter Park baseball grounds. So the aftermath. This is where the entrance to Dexter Park was, and now it's a sea town, and a parking lot. You can see Franklin K. Lane down there in the distance. In the parking lot, they say parking for Seatown customers only, but over there just to the left, I find a really interesting sign sitting there. It's like rubbing salt in the wound that we used to have this beautiful stadium there, and it says no ball playing allowed. That's just a shot through the heart. Woodhaven Cultural and Historical Society, of which this presentation is being brought to you by. They put up a historical marker to Dexter Park a number of years ago. You can see Dexter Park, 1911, 1955, home of Max Rosner's Bushwicks. And that 1911 date, that goes to when Max Rosner and the others, they built the original grandstands there. Even though he built the stadium, 1922-23, this sign is accurate, going back to the original stands. Home of Max Rosner's Bushwicks, first night game, 7/23/30. Joe DiMaggio, Casey Stengel, Jackie Robinson, Satchel Paige, Phil Rizzuto, Hank Greenberg, Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth, Josh Gibson all played here. And they had a ceremony in which some of the former ball players came and spoke about their time playing. And you can see it's a great jacket there. It looks like a Bushwicks jacket. And right there, you see back by the fence there, our assemblyman at the time, Frederick D. Schmidt. I know most of you remember him. He was a beloved figure here in Woodhaven. And there he is speaking. And finally, a group picture there, in which you see Frederick D. Schmidt, and I'm not sure who the people on the left are, but on the right, the woman front center with the black jacket, that's Leonora Lavin, who helped found the Woodhaven Cultural Historical Society. And on the right, Mr. Alan Smith, who he usually joins us at Nears on Monday nights when we do our presentation. And he is a tremendous Woodhaven historian, and it's a lot of fun to talk Woodhaven history with him. He's a really good man. We have tried to keep the history of Woodhaven alive, and one of the ways we do that is we've created coloring book pages, and we set up coloring stations at different public events like park fairs and stuff. This is one of the ones we did here, and kids would come out and draw pictures. And two of the pages that we have, one has Josh Gibson and one has Babe Ruth. and the kids color them in, and they get to learn a bit about them. A lot of the kids love. They didn't know, especially when talking to young kids, they didn't know there was a baseball stadium here. So it's really interesting. We also donated art supplies to local schools. This one was from PS60, and in which we gave them some photographs, some art supplies, and then this is a kid who did a painting of Dexter Park. Dexter Park also was part of our Museum of Woodhaven History, which we haven't had on display for about 2 years, and hopefully we can get it on display again soon. Basically, we have 26 panels that are about 6.5 foot high, 3.5 foot wide on all different parts of Woodhaven history, and we can kind of put it up in an area where people can go in and look at it. We had it at the piano factory, which was part of the Grosjean factory. We had it up there for about 2 months during COVID. And then finally, just a few months ago, you may remember, we had put in an application for, and it was approved by New York City Council to co-name the corner of Dexter Court and 86th Road, Max Rosner Way. This was about where remember we saw that picture earlier where the people were waiting online to buy tickets. This is approximately where that would be. That's Max Rosner Way. And there's members of the Rosner family and some other folks in there that came out for the sign ceremony. And they enjoyed that. Look at one of the Rosners on the left has the Brooklyn Bushwicks shirt. It's a great shirt. And there's the sign. I have to admit, I travel down that way probably once or twice a week when I'm in my car and I'm just driving. If I find myself near there, I'll just kind of circle by there and pass by it just to look at it. And this was us afterwards at Near's Tavern, and just having a nice celebration about for that day. And then finally, a friend of mine sent me this photograph that someone had sent to him of Woodhaven, and it's a nice photograph of some people up in Cypress Hill Cemetery on the hill, and you can see it's overlooking Dexter Park. You can see the stadium lights. You can see the stadium there that you can see from Cypress Hill Cemetery. And Eddie Gardner went up there with his son and took a picture in the same spot. He found where those graves were, that same road, and took a photograph there. So it kind of give you an idea looking over. That's where Dexter Park used to be. And we finish up with this thought. You look at this picture and you see all these people there. You've heard everything that went on there, and everything that really we had and lost. And giving a walking tour in that area, even though there's a lot of good stories, it's no fun giving a walking tour about something that used to be here, and we still have some really great things here in this community that we need to do a better job of really supporting. And I think of, in particular, I think of the Forest Park Carousel. We almost lost that a number of years ago. So we're going to have some events at the Carousel coming up. We're coming up on 10 years to the day of when it was originally landmarked. So we want to get some people out there, kind of like a flash crowd, to kind of get out there and all ride the Carousel together. And places like Schmidt's Candies and Near's Tavern and a lot of other places. We're very fortunate here in Woodhaven to have a lot of old businesses still around. The fact that we spent a lot of time tonight looking at articles from the Leader Observer, a newspaper that still publishes and is distributed in Woodhaven. I think there's a lot of communities around New York that can't compete with the historical pedigree that we still have, things that we still have around. We just have to really make sure that we keep them and don't lose any. I don't want to ever be giving a walking tour and pointing out across the street and saying, hey, that's where Near's Tavern used to be, or that's where Schmidt's Candies used to be. You know, we've got to support them while we have them here so that they don't disappear as Dexter Park did. So that wraps up our Dexter Park presentation. A little bit longer than I thought, but